I've started a new channel called Lunila Tales. Please subscribe and watch my best stories there. Link is in the description. The rainforest was screaming. Not the human kind of scream, but the kind that came when birds, monkeys, and frogs all went silent at once. The air thickened as if the trees themselves held their breath. Then came the crash. It split the night open, a blinding green arc slicing through clouds before vanishing into the jungle with a thunderous boom that rattled the ground for miles. 300 kilometers away, a satellite caught the anomaly, a signal bouncing between frequencies that shouldn't exist, humming like a heartbeat from another world. Dr. Ilara Quinn stared at the transmission in disbelief. The world's leading alien tracker, she had seen hundreds of hoaxes, but this signal pulsed with structure, mathematical precision that screamed intelligence. She blinked at the screen, smiled, and whispered, "Finally." 2 days later, the team gathered at a derelict airstrip near the edge of the Amazon. The place smelled of fuel and secret. Ilara paced near the chopper, eyes hidden behind dark glasses despite the cloudy sky. Her team wasn't exactly what anyone would call stable. Rajiv Singh, a caffeine-fueled hacker who talked faster than bullets, had built half the tech they carried. He greeted everyone with a grin and 2 energy drinks in hand. "So, boss, are we hunting ET or just another government cover-up?" he said. Hawk, a retired sniper with a cowboy hat and a hatred for bugs, spit on the ground. "Long as it bleeds I can shoot it," he muttered. Maya Torres, zoologist and resident optimist, adjusted her glasses and smiled politely. "Let's not shoot anything until we know what it is." Captain Brooks, the group's stoic ex-military guide, simply grunted. He'd led missions in terrains that ate men alive. His presence said one thing: "Follow me if you want to make it out." As the helicopter lifted off, the forest below looked endless, an emerald ocean of life and death. Ilara briefed them on the signal, projecting the data through her wrist display. "It repeats every 12 minutes. Whatever it is, it's intelligent. And it's calling for help." Rajiv frowned. "Or baiting us." She smiled faintly. "Either way, we answer." The pilot glanced nervously at his compass. "Ma'am, instruments are glitching. Something's messing with the magnetics." The sky darkened unnaturally, clouds twisting in unnatural spirals. When the chopper touched down near the coordinates, everyone felt the electric charge in the air, like standing inside a storm that hadn't yet decided to strike. They began their trek through mud and vines. The forest buzzed with heat, sweat, and invisible eyes. Hours in, Rajiv deployed a reconnaissance drone. "If aliens are hiding, this baby's gonna find them." The drone whirred upward, camera feeding live footage to their tablet. For a brief moment, everything seemed fine, until a large toucan swooped in, snatched the drone midair, and flew off, broadcasting the alien signal from its beak. Rajiv screamed, "That's $2,000 in feathers." Hawk laughed until the laughter stopped. The forest had gone silent again. They moved cautiously, every sound amplified by dread. Eventually, they reached a clearing and froze. Trees lay charred in perfect circles. The ground was blackened, as though something had burned without fire. Metal fragments littered the area, some glowing faintly green. A crater yawned in the center, filled with a strange, pulsing ooze that smelled metallic and alive. Maya crouched beside it, eyes wide. "This residue, it's organic. Not from any known species." Brooks scanned the perimeter. "Tracks human. Maybe 6 or 7 men. Heavy boot. Military pattern." Ilara looked up sharply. "Military? Here." They moved forward slowly, stepping over scorched roots. Then Brooks stopped. His hand shot up. "Don't move." Rajiv froze mid-step, foot inches above what looked like a vine. It wasn't a vine. It was a tripwire. A quiet click echoed, followed by the sharp metallic sound of gears engaging. Brooks lunged, tackling Rajiv to the ground as an explosion ripped through the clearing. The world went white, then silent except for ringing ears and falling ash. When the dust cleared, the crater was gone, obliterated. Brooks's arm bled from shrapnel, but his expression was pure fury. That wasn't alien. That was military grade. Elara helped him to his feet, eyes burning with realization. Someone doesn't want this found. Rajiv coughed, covered in mud and soot. Well, mission accomplished. I didn't find aliens, but I did find the world's worst camping trip. Hawk scanned the tree line, rifle raised. We need to move. If there's one trap, there'll be more. Maya's voice trembled slightly. But who would plant military traps here? The nearest base is hundreds of miles away. Elara's gaze hardened. Someone who got here before us. They trekked deeper into the jungle, their nerves frayed. The silence was no longer natural, it was intentional, oppressive. A faint mechanical hum began following them, echoing between the trees. Rajiv frowned. That's not us. I disabled all active tech. Hawk aimed his rifle toward the sound. It moved faster than any animal, circling them. A flash of light darted through the shadows. Maya gasped. Did you see that? Something metallic zipped past, slicing a branch clean off. Brooks raised his gun, eyes scanning. Motion sensors. Hidden ones. He stepped closer and saw the marking etched into a fallen sensor, an American insignia scratched out violently. Elara crouched beside it, her fingers tracing the scratched emblem. U.S. Special Forces, she whispered. Rajiv blinked. Wait, what? Since when do they go alien hunting? Brooks's face tightened. They don't. Unless it's classified. Hawk kicked a branch aside. So let me get this straight. We've got aliens maybe, ghosts definitely, and government soldiers setting booby traps in the middle of nowhere? Rajiv shrugged. Great. My therapist is gonna love this. As they continued, the jungle seemed to close in. Each step forward felt like walking through someone's memory, an echo of violence that still lingered. The deeper they went, the stranger the air became. Compass needles spun. Lights flickered without power sources. Then they saw it, an old camp hidden beneath overgrowth, camouflaged with moss and broken gear. Inside lay shattered helmets, spent cartridges, and a single message scrawled in blood across a metal wall. They woke it up. Elara stared at the words, pulse racing. Rajiv's voice broke the silence. So, I'm guessing it isn't a friendly forest fairy? Brooks lifted a cracked dog tag from the dirt. The name was barely legible, but one word stood out, chameleon. He turned it over and muttered, Operation Chameleon. The team exchanged glances. Elara stepped forward, determination slicing through fear. We're not alone here. Someone tried to bury this, and whatever's still out there, it's not done. The night crawled in heavy and humid, pressing against their skin like a fever. The forest had turned from green to black, every leaf a shadow, every sound a possible threat. The team had set up a small perimeter near the old camp, using what was left of the Special Forces equipment to create a makeshift defense. A faint blue glow pulsed from Elara's tablet as she analyzed the residue samples collected from the crash site. The readings didn't make sense. The composition kept changing as if the material was adapting to being studied. Rajiv sat cross-legged beside her, typing furiously on his laptop powered by a portable generator that wheezed like an old smoker. So, this goo isn't radioactive, viral, or organic in any way we know, he muttered. It's like it's learning from the sensors. Hawk leaned back against a log and sighed. Learning goo. Great. Maybe it'll start charging rent next. Brooks was pacing along the camp's edge, night vision goggles over his eyes. He moved with the precision of a man who knew how quickly the jungle could turn on you. Maya, sitting near the fire, was sketching the patterns found on the scorched fragments. Look at these, she said softly, showing Elara. They're symmetrical. Almost like writing. Elara studied the sketch. The lines curved in mathematical patterns that resembled fractals, too perfect to be random. It's a code, she said. Rajiv's head shot up. You mean like a language? She nodded. Or a lock. The conversation was cut short when Brooks hissed for silence. The forest had gone still again. No wind, no frogs, nothing. Everyone froze. Hawk aimed his rifle toward the darkness, scanning for movement. Then they heard it, a faint click like metal shifting under pressure. Elara whispered, "Everyone stay still." The sound grew louder, closer. Rajiv's laptop screen flickered, static crawling across it. Out of nowhere, a faint red light blinked between the trees. Brooks recognized it instantly. "Motion sensor," he said. "Military." Hawk frowned. "But it's moving." The light darted right then left before shooting straight toward them. Brooks dove forward and tackled Rajiv as a small drone zipped into view, its rotors spinning erratically. It crashed into the dirt, sputtering out sparks. The insignia on its side was barely visible, Operation Chameleon. Elara knelt beside the wreckage, inspecting its charred core. Recon drone, US tech, modified for jungle operations. But it's running alien energy signatures. Rajiv peered at the melted circuitry. So, either the aliens hacked our stuff, or someone's been mixing toys they shouldn't. Hawk kicked the dirt. Either way, we've got something out here that knows we're here now. The wind shifted, carrying a faint metallic smell, like burnt wiring mixed with blood. Maya's voice trembled. "Maybe we should fall back." Brooks shook his head. "If we move, we make noise. Noise gets you killed here." The firelight flickered, throwing their shadows long and strange. Then came a low hum. It wasn't from the drone or their generator. It came from the jungle itself, vibrating the ground under them. Rajiv turned to Elara. "Please tell me that's just a new species of mosquito." The hum intensified into a mechanical screech, followed by a thud. The sound came from just beyond their perimeter. Brooks raised a hand and signaled to flank. Hawk took the left, Elara and Rajiv the right. They crept through vines and roots until they reached a fallen tree. Beneath it lay a corpse, or what was left of one. The body was half buried in mud, the uniform shredded, the name tag smeared but readable, Sergeant L. Morrows. Brooks recognized the unit symbol. He was Chameleon. The corpse's face was frozen in horror, the eyes wide open, pupils dilated. But the strangest thing was his mouth, curved in a smile. Rajiv gagged. "Why is he smiling like that?" Hawk knelt and picked up the soldier's helmet, its camera light still blinking. Maybe he saw something worth laughing about. They played the recording. The footage was static at first, then cleared. The camera showed soldiers moving through the jungle, weapons raised. A voice shouted, "We've got movement, 11 o'clock." The image shifted violently. Then the camera caught it, a blur of light bending around a humanoid shape. The soldiers fired. Screams followed. One by one, their signals went dark. The last thing captured was a distorted reflection of a soldier turning his gun on himself, laughing before the feed cut off. No one spoke. The forest seemed to be watching. Rajiv exhaled shakily. "Okay, so ghosts. We're officially in ghost territory now." Hawk smirked. "If they're ghosts, I'm shooting them anyway." Maya whispered, "They weren't ghosts. They were afraid of something invisible." Elara looked down at the corpse again. The skin around his neck was marked with deep punctures, like something had latched on. She spoke quietly. "No. Not invisible. Cloaked." As they returned to camp, they noticed something new. The traps had moved. The tripwires they set earlier now hung in different positions, as though rearranged by unseen hands. Brooks crouched low, scanning the surroundings. "Something's testing us." Rajiv's laptop emitted a faint beep. Motion sensors picked up movement around the camp perimeter. About 30 meters out. Elara frowned. "Animals." Rajiv shook his head. "Patterns too deliberate. Whatever it is, it's circling." Suddenly, a rope snapped overhead, and Maya screamed as she was yanked into the air, caught in a hidden net trap. Rajiv jumped up, fumbling for his knife. Hawk aimed upward, trying to find the trigger point. "Hold still, Doc," he shouted, slicing through the net with a single shot. Maya crashed down in a tangle of vines and mud, breathless but alive. "Thanks for the warning," she muttered weakly. Rajiv helped her up. On the bright side, at least the traps still work. Brooks didn't smile. He was staring at the spot where the trap had been triggered. That wasn't one of ours. The realization hit them all at once. Someone else had been here recently. Elara crouched beside the tree trunk and found fresh boot prints, smaller, lighter than standard issue. These aren't from the special forces, she said. They're newer. Hawk muttered, so we've got ghosts, aliens, and tourists. Perfect. Brooks pointed toward the north. Tracks lead that way. Whoever's out there, they're watching us. They followed the tracks through the thick undergrowth, every step heavier than the last. The path led them to a clearing filled with more wreckage, torn tents, broken weapon crates, and a trail of blood leading into a cave hidden behind a curtain of vines. Brooks motioned for silence. Inside, they found a metallic crate marked with quarantine symbols. The lid was open, empty, and beside it, a cracked cryopod leaking green mist. Rajiv swallowed hard. Please tell me whatever was in there didn't check out early. A rustle echoed deeper inside the cave. Brooks raised his weapon, flashlight cutting through the darkness. There was movement, slow, deliberate. A faint outline shimmered like heat haze. Then, two luminous eyes blinked back at them. Maya gasped. It's still alive. Elara stepped forward, heart pounding. The creature was small, frail-looking, humanoid but translucent, as if made of shifting light. It stared back at her, trembling. Its voice didn't come from its mouth but from inside their heads. Help, hunters, coming. Rajiv stepped back. The cave erupted in chaos. The alien's last word hung in the air like a warning carved into the wind. Run. Elara grabbed her pack, yanking Rajiv to his feet as the ground trembled beneath them. A deep rumble rolled through the jungle, followed by a metallic screech that made their bones vibrate. Brooks fired a flare toward the entrance, illuminating the dark tunnel with an eerie red glow. The light revealed claw marks etched deep into the rock, each one the size of a man's arm. Maya stumbled back, gasping. That's not human. The alien was gone, vanished into the shadows, leaving behind a faint green shimmer like the residue of light itself. Elara's instincts screamed to chase it, but the sound coming from outside told her not to. Something was tearing through the jungle, smashing trees like matchsticks. They burst out of the cave, mud and debris flying underfoot. Explosions lit up the forest in flashes of orange and blue. Traps were detonating in rapid succession, the same ones they had found laid by the special forces. The air reeked of burning vegetation and gunpowder. Brooks led them toward the tree line, shouting over the chaos. Stay low, move fast, and don't stop. Hawk fired warning shots into the darkness behind them, but his bullets vanished into empty air. A split second later, something invisible ripped through his shoulder, spinning him around. He cursed through clenched teeth, blood running down his arm. It's hitting from the right, he shouted. Elara turned just in time to see the faint ripple of light moving toward them like heat waves on asphalt. She didn't think, she fired. The shot hit nothing, but the ripple stopped for a heartbeat before shifting direction. They dove behind fallen logs as a metallic shriek echoed from above. The trees shook violently, showering them in leaves and dust. Rajiv looked at Elara, eyes wide with panic. We can't shoot what we can't see. She pulled out the small alien fragment she'd kept from the crash site. The shard pulsed faintly, almost in rhythm with the creature's movements. It reacts to them, she whispered. She held it up, and for a moment, the air in front of them shimmered, revealing the outline of a towering figure, humanoid but wrong. Its limbs were elongated, its body covered in a shifting armor that seemed alive. Then it was gone again, moving too fast for the eye to follow. Brooks barked an order. Back to the river. Move now. They sprinted downhill, branches slapping their faces, the sound of pursuit thundering behind them. The river appeared like a silver scar under the moonlight. Without hesitation, they plunged in, the cold water swallowing their screams. They drifted downstream until the forest grew quiet again. When they finally crawled out onto the bank, soaked and shaking, everyone looked half dead. Hawk sat against a rock, breathing hard, blood soaking through his shirt. Rajiv rummaged through his pack for the med kit, mumbling under his breath. Invisible monsters, psychic aliens, government cover-ups, just another day in the office. Maya sat beside him, trembling. That thing, it wasn't trying to kill us right away. It was hurting us. Elara looked at the jungle across the river, her voice calm but sharp. No. It's hunting us. There's a difference. Hours later, they found temporary shelter under an abandoned observation post. The metal platform creaked under their weight, but it was dry and defensible. Rajiv set up his equipment while Elara studied the alien shard. Its glow had faded, replaced by faint flickers of symbols she didn't recognize. She traced them with her finger. It's not random. It's communication. Brooks leaned against the railing, scanning the perimeter. That thing said hunters. So what are they hunting? Us or that creature in the cave? Elara looked up. Both. Rajiv's screen beeped, displaying encrypted files recovered from the drone they'd salvaged earlier. He frowned as lines of military code scrolled across. Okay, this is interesting. Operation Chameleon wasn't just a search and destroy. It was a capture mission. Hawk winced as Maya cleaned his wound. Capture what? Rajiv turned the laptop toward them. Not the alien. The tech. These guys were trying to weaponize it. He pulled up a short video clip. It showed soldiers surrounding a pod identical to the one they'd found in the cave. Inside, the alien sat motionless, restrained by metal cuffs that pulsed with light. A man in a uniform stepped into frame. His name tag read Major Kane. He spoke to the camera. Subject shows telepathic ability. Controlled environments are unstable. Orders from command. Extract genetic data for replication testing. Containment priority alpha. The footage cut off in static. Maya's voice was barely above a whisper. They tortured it. Elara's jaw tightened. And it fought back. Rajiv played the next clip. The lab was in chaos, alarms blaring, soldiers shouting. The alien's pod shattered as green light flooded the room. The feed ended abruptly. Silence filled the space. Hawk muttered, "So Kane might still be out here somewhere." Brooks nodded. "If he's alive, he'll know what happened." By dawn, they were on the move again. The air was thick with mist, and the forest seemed quieter than ever. They followed the river north, hoping to locate any remnants of the chameleon unit. After several hours, they stumbled upon a half-buried communication tower, its structure twisted and scorched. A faint signal blinked on its console. Rajiv fiddled with the controls until a voice broke through the static. "This is Major Kane. If you can hear this, do not engage. It's not what you think it is." The transmission looped, repeating the same phrase. Elara frowned. "He's alive." They followed the signal deeper into the jungle, every sense on edge. Strange symbols began appearing on trees, burn marks shaped like spirals. Maya studied one closely. These matched the patterns on the alien shard. Rajiv swallowed nervously. "So either it's leaving breadcrumbs or it wants us to follow." Hawk grunted. "Maybe it's just marking territory." Brooks shook his head. "Either way, we're walking straight into it." By late afternoon, they reached a valley shrouded in fog. In its center stood a small metallic structure, half sunken into the earth. The door hung open, and faint blue light pulsed inside. Elara led the way, weapon ready. The interior was filled with rusted machinery and data screens covered in grime. Then they saw him, a figure slumped against the wall, gaunt and wild-eyed, clutching a rifle. Major Kane. He lifted his head slowly, his face a map of exhaustion and fear. "You shouldn't have come," he rasped. Brooks stepped forward cautiously. "We need answers. What happened here?" Kane's eyes flickered toward the shadows. "It wasn't supposed to escape. We thought it was a lost traveler. We tried to study it." Elara crouched beside him. "The alien?" Kane shook his head weakly. "That wasn't the alien. That was the bait. His voice cracked, raw and haunted. The real threat hides inside them. A parasite. It latches on, takes over. The host doesn't even know until it's too late. Rajiv felt a chill crawl up his spine. You're saying the thing we found was infected? Kane nodded slowly. And if you made contact with it, it already knows you. Outside, the jungle stirred. The fog thickened, rolling like a living thing. Elara stood, heart pounding. It followed us here. Kane tried to lift his rifle, but his hand trembled violently. You can't kill it. You can only contain it. I tried. His voice faded to a whisper. But it learns. The structure trembled like a dying beast, dust raining from the ceiling as the sound of metal groaning filled the air. Major Kane's eyes darted toward the shadows at the doorway, his voice breaking into a rasp. It's here. Brooks grabbed Elara by the arm and pulled her back, shouting for Rajiv and Maya to find cover. The lights flickered once, twice, and then died completely, plunging them into a darkness so thick it felt alive. Elara switched on her flashlight, the narrow beam cutting through the fog and revealing twisted cables and scorched panels. Something dripped steadily from the ceiling. It wasn't water. The drops glowed faintly green, sizzling where they hit the floor. Rajiv's voice trembled. That's the same residue from the crash site. Brooks raised his weapon, scanning the corners. No, it's fresher. A sudden crash came from behind them as a metal beam snapped and fell. Kane fired blindly into the dark, the muzzle flashes illuminating his wild eyes and bloodied face. The air rippled, and for a split second they saw it, the creature or what was left of it. Its body shifted like liquid metal, patches of skin and machinery fused together. It had no clear form, just a mass of muscle and armor that moved with intelligence. Maya screamed, firing a flare gun. The light revealed the horror in full. The alien was gone, replaced by something that looked half-human. Its face twitched through multiple expressions in seconds, one of them unmistakably Kane's. He froze, lowering his weapon in disbelief. Oh God, it's learning from us. Elara fired her pistol, but the bullets sank into the creature like stones into mud. It screeched, the sound vibrating the walls. Brooks threw a grenade and shouted for everyone to run. The explosion tore through the bunker, sending debris flying. They sprinted into the jungle, the night alive with fire and the stench of burning metal. Behind them, the bunker collapsed, and the ground trembled like something massive was shifting beneath it. Rajiv stumbled, but Elara yanked him up, refusing to slow. Keep moving, she shouted. The sky flashed with lightning, illuminating the twisted treeline. For a moment, she thought she saw dozens of glowing eyes in the distance, watching, calculating. When they finally stopped, they were miles from the wreckage. The rain poured hard, washing blood and mud from their faces. Kane leaned against a tree, coughing violently. His voice came out in broken fragment. You can't fight it. Every time it kills, it learns. We built traps, layers of them. But it adapted. It uses our own weapons against us. Brooks crouched beside him. Then tell us what works. Kane's eyes were glassy. Fire. For a while. Then it learned to smother that too. He laughed weakly, a sound that turned into a sob. We were supposed to study it. Instead, we taught it how to kill smarter. Elara turned to the others. We can't keep running blind. If this thing is using our traps, we find the ones that still work and turn them against it. Rajiv nodded shakily. Assuming it doesn't hack them first. Hawk, pale but standing despite his wound, wiped rain from his rifle. Then we go old school. Explosives, fire and luck. Maya glanced at Kane, who had gone eerily still. What about him? Elara leaned closer and her heart sank. His skin was changing. A faint metallic sheen spread across his neck. His veins glowed green. He's infected, she whispered. Brooks aimed his gun, but Elara stopped him. Not yet. Kane opened his eyes. For a moment they were not his. His voice came through layered and distorted. You can't contain what you can't comprehend. The voice wasn't entirely his anymore. The tone shifted between multiple pitches, overlapping like an echo. You teach. We learn. You trap. We escape. You destroy. We rebuild. Then Kane's body convulsed violently. His flesh tore, revealing cables and sinew beneath. Elara backed away, shouting, "Get back!" The transformation was grotesque, fast, unstoppable. Brooks opened fire, but the bullets did nothing except enrage it. The creature that had been Kane lunged forward, catching Brooks's shoulder in its claws. Elara grabbed a flare from her belt and shoved it into the creature's chest. Fire erupted, and it shrieked, stumbling backward before collapsing into the mud. It didn't die, it melted, retreating into the earth like water down a drain. Rajiv panted, eyes wide. "Please tell me that's not normal physics." Elara stared at the steaming hole where the creature had vanished. "It's not physics. It's evolution." The rain hissed as it hit the burning ground. Brooks grimaced, clutching his shoulder. That thing was Kane, or at least what's left of him. If it can copy us, it can blend in. Maya looked around nervously. "Then how do we know it hasn't already?" No one answered. The jungle whispered in response, branches creaking like bones. They found shelter under an ancient tree, its roots wide enough to crawl under. Rajiv was shaking as he patched Brooks's wound. "We're sitting ducks out here. If it's learning, it'll predict where we move next." Elara rubbed her temples, exhaustion and fear mixing in her veins. "Not if we become unpredictable. We use its own trick. We set traps for the traps." Hawk gave her a skeptical look. "You're suggesting we outsmart something that eats brains for breakfast?" She met his gaze. "Yes, because it learned from us, and that means it has limits we gave it." For the next few hours, they worked in silence, rigging the area with whatever explosives and tech they had left. Rajiv modified the sensors to emit false heat signatures, while Maya created a distraction trail using pheromones from the residue samples. The rain eased, leaving behind a fog that crawled low to the ground. Elara checked her weapon one last time and looked at her team. "No heroics. We stick together. If it splits us, we're done." Brooks nodded. "And if it copies one of us?" Rajiv muttered, "Then we hope it picks the version of me that's good at running." The jungle held its breath. Then came the sound of snapping branches. The fog shifted unnaturally, swirling against the wind. Rajiv's sensors beeped rapidly. "It's here," he whispered. The temperature dropped several degrees, the air tasting metallic. Out of the mist, shapes began forming, 5 silhouettes identical to them. Each one stepped forward, mirroring their movements perfectly. Elara's heart pounded. "It's mimicking us." One of the copies smiled, a distorted version of her own face. "You taught us fear," it said in overlapping voices. "Now we return the favor." The clearing exploded into chaos. Gunfire, screams, and flashes of light filled the air. Brooks triggered the mines, sending shockwaves through the ground. One of the copies disintegrated, melting into ash, but the others kept coming. Hawk tackled his duplicate, the two of them rolling through mud, indistinguishable in the chaos. Rajiv triggered the final charge, blowing the entire section of the forest skyward. The explosion threw them all back, the blast wave deafening. When the smoke cleared, only one figure stood. Elara aimed her weapon, trembling. "Say something only I'd know." The figure smiled weakly. "You still owe Rajiv $20. She lowered the gun, relief flooding her chest. The relief didn't last. The ground beneath them began to pulse with a green glow. Maya's voice broke. "It's not dead. It's growing. The earth." The morning light bled through the canopy like a pale wound, giving the forest a sickly green glow. The rain had stopped, but the air was heavy and damp, filled with the smell of burnt foliage and decay. The team moved cautiously through the ruins of their own trap field, their nerves frayed to breaking point. Every tree, every shadow seemed to move when they weren't looking. Rajiv's sensors clicked softly in his hand, the screen flickering with static. "It's everywhere," he muttered. "Temperature spikes in every direction. It's like the whole forest is alive. Elara didn't respond. Her face was streaked with dirt, eyes hollow but sharp. She was thinking, too much, too fast, trying to understand what the creature wanted. Brooks limped beside her, clutching his injured arm. We can't keep running circles. If it's spreading, we need to contain it before it reaches the river. Elara stopped, scanning the treeline. Contain it? Brooks, it's already past that point. It's replicating. The forest isn't just infected, it's turning into part of it. Maya swallowed hard. You mean the trees? Elara nodded slowly. Roots, spores, vines, all of it. The parasite isn't invading. It's merging. Rajiv glanced up from his device. So, we're standing inside the world's biggest alien Wi-Fi network. Fantastic. They followed the faint trace of the signal Major Kane had once used. If there was any remaining power grid from the old chameleon operation, it might give them leverage. Hours passed, the forest closing tighter around them, vines hanging low like skeletal fingers. The jungle had changed. Leaves shimmered faintly in unnatural patterns, as though absorbing light differently. Rajiv stopped walking. Hey, boss. He pointed toward a tree where bark had peeled back to reveal something metallic beneath, cables embedded in living wood. Brooks touched it with the muzzle of his rifle. The cable pulsed. It's integrating with the tech, he said quietly. The traps, the drones, it's using everything. Elara's expression hardened. Then we use it too. She pulled out Kane's old data chip, which Rajiv had recovered before the explosion. There were blueprints for the containment net in his files. A failsafe. If we can trigger it, we might shut the system down. Rajiv frowned. That's assuming the failsafe doesn't fry us with it. This thing's had time to rewrite half the code. Hawk snorted, adjusting his weapon. Better fried than digested. They moved toward the old communications hub that Kane's coordinates led to. The path was lined with human bones half swallowed by roots, dog tags rusted into the soil. The names were unreadable. Inside the hub, everything smelled like mold and electricity. Screens flickered weakly, their power running on what little energy the alien network was still feeding. Rajiv immediately went to work, typing furiously as lines of corrupted code scrolled across his display. Half of this system's been rewritten in some kind of bio-language, he said. It's like it talks in DNA now. Elara leaned over his shoulder. Can you still access the original failsafe? He hesitated. Maybe. But there's something else. A second signal buried under the first. It's not alien. Elara frowned. Then what is it? Rajiv hesitated before answering. Earth's defense network. The signal came from them, not from space. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to go off. Maya stared at Elara. You mean the distress call, the one that brought us here? Rajiv nodded grimly. It wasn't from aliens. It was from a classified division. They created the signal to lure people here. Scientists, soldiers, mercenaries. Test subjects. Brooks's eyes darkened. So we were bait. Elara's hands clenched around the edge of the console. They wanted to see how the organism behaved under different stimuli. They used us to trigger it. Rajiv's laugh was bitter. We're not hunters. We're lab rats in a jungle-sized experiment. Silence filled the room, broken only by the hum of the corrupted machinery. Elara stared at the screen, then at the jungle outside. Then we end their experiment. Brooks looked at her. By doing what? By turning their weapon against them, she said. If the organism's using the tech as a neural network, we overload it. We give it more than it can process. Rajiv's eyes widened. You want to fry the entire rainforest? Elara nodded. Yes. If we don't, it spreads. It reaches civilization, and then it's over. They worked fast, scavenging what was left of the chameleon explosives and hacking into the central energy grid. Rajiv rerouted power lines while Maya and Brooks set the charges. Every few minutes, strange noises echoed from the jungle, wet slithering sounds, whispers that almost formed words. Once, Maya swore she heard her own voice calling from the trees. Hawk almost shot a vine that moved like a snake. The forest was shifting around them, rearranging paths, confusing direction. It knows what we're doing, Rajiv said through clenched teeth. It's trying to stop us. Elara placed a hand on the console, closing her eyes for a moment. The machine pulsed under her fingers, almost like a heartbeat. You wanted to learn from us, she whispered. Then learn this. She slammed the activation key. A loud hum began building through the structure, rising in pitch. The lights flickered, the screens flashing warnings. Rajiv's laptop beeped rapidly. It's pushing back. It's rewriting the shutdown code. Brooks shouted, then cut the manual line. Rajiv's hands blurred across the keys. Sparks burst from the main server as smoke filled the air. Outside, the jungle screamed. Trees shuddered as if struck by an invisible wind. The ground vibrated. Elara ran to the window and saw tendrils of light spreading across the forest floor, traveling through roots and leaves like fire through gasoline. It's working, she said, though her voice trembled. Maya looked horrified. You're burning the forest alive. Elara turned to her. We don't have a choice. Suddenly, a loud metallic shriek tore through the base. One of the walls buckled inward, and the creature, if it could still be called that, burst through. It was massive now, its form shifting between steel and flesh, the air around it warping. The heat from the overload made its skin ripple. It moved with fluid precision, its voice echoing in dozens of tones. You kill what you fear. We become what you destroy. Brooks fired, the bullets sparking harmlessly against its surface. Rajiv grabbed the detonator, yelling over the noise. I can trigger the failsafe manually, but we won't make it out. Elara met his eyes. Do it. He hesitated for a fraction of a second, then hit the switch. The explosion ripped through the hub, flames swallowing everything. The shockwave threw them backward, into mud and debris. The sky lit up in green and gold as the entire system went into meltdown. The creature screamed, its body twisting into shards of light before collapsing in on itself. The noise stopped as suddenly as it had begun. The sky had turned the color of ash, the horizon pulsing with a sickly green light that bled upward like veins. The forest no longer looked like a forest. Trees were merging with metal, vines humming faintly as if charged with electricity, and the ground itself moved in slow waves beneath their boots. Elara led the way through the thickening fog, every breath tasting of ozone and decay. Behind her, Brooks struggled to keep pace, his injured arm bound tightly with a torn sleeve, while Rajiv limped with one hand pressed to his ribs, carrying the last working transmitter. Maya walked in silence, her face pale, eyes reflecting the strange glow from the jungle floor. The air was hot but lifeless, and somewhere in the distance came the slow, rhythmic thudding of something vast moving beneath the earth. They stopped on a ridge overlooking what once had been a valley. Now it was a crater, the center pulsing like a heartbeat. In the middle, half buried under soil and roots, was the hive core. It wasn't a machine or a structure. It was alive. Huge strands of metallic vines stretched from it in every direction, disappearing into the forest. The core's surface shimmered like liquid metal, breathing in slow, terrible rhythm. Rajiv stared, shaking his head. It's using the entire ecosystem as an operating system. The jungle is the body. That thing's the brain. Elara's voice was steady but low. Then we cut out the brain. Brooks gave a humorless laugh. That's like killing God with a pocket knife. They made their way down the ridge carefully, avoiding the glowing roots that writhed across the ground like living tripwires. Maya stopped near a massive tree that had fused with a satellite dish, its bark splitting to reveal blinking lights underneath. It's feeding off the old tech, she whispered. Every device we've used, every frequency, it's absorbing and replicating. Elara turned to Rajiv. Can you still jam its signal? He nodded weakly. If I can connect to the transmitter, maybe. But we'll have to get close enough to sync the frequency. Too close. Elara met his gaze. We'll cover you. As they reached the base of the crater, the air grew heavier, pressing down on them until it felt like walking through water. The core's light pulsed faster, and a deep vibration ran through the ground. Brooks steadied himself, looking around. It knows we're here. He wasn't wrong. The vines began shifting, curling upward like serpents. Shapes started forming in the mist. Humanoid outlines, translucent and pulsing with light. They weren't solid, but their voices filled the air, hundreds of overlapping whispers. Elara could make out fragments of words, all in their own voices. Why fight? Join. Learn. She raised her rifle, firing into the closest shape. The bullet passed through harmlessly, shattering a tree behind it. The shapes advanced, moving faster now, their forms flickering between human and alien. Rajiv dropped to his knees beside the transmitter, hands flying across the controls. Sparks leapt from the cables as he rerouted power. I need 2 minutes, he yelled. Maya and Brooks fired at the approaching shapes, the noise echoing through the valley like thunder. Every shot lit up the core's surface brighter, as if feeding it. It's drawing energy from kinetic activity, Maya shouted. Every time we shoot, it gets stronger. Elara cursed under her breath and switched to silent weapons, knives drawn. She moved through the fog like a ghost, slicing through the vines that reached for Rajiv. One wrapped around her ankle, cold and wet, pulling her down. Brooks grabbed her arm, yanking her free just before another vine snapped through the air where her neck had been. Rajiv slammed his hand on the final key. The transmitter screamed to life, sending a surge of static through the valley. The humanoid shapes convulsed, flickering violently before collapsing into puddles of green liquid. For a moment it worked. The core's pulse slowed, its glow dimming. Rajiv grinned through blood-stained teeth. We did it. Then his expression changed. The transmitter began to hum again, higher and higher. It's rerouting the feedback. It's using my signal. Sparks exploded from the device. Elara shouted, "Cut it off." But Rajiv shook his head. If I cut it now, it'll trace back to us. I can jam it, but I have to stay connected. Maya stepped forward. Rajiv, don't. He gave her a small, tired smile. Hey, someone's gotta make sure it doesn't crash the whole planet's Wi-Fi. Then he looked at Elara. Finish it. Before anyone could stop him, he shoved the transmitter deeper into the ground, forcing a manual overload. The entire valley erupted in a burst of green light, blinding and silent. When the light faded, Rajiv was gone. Only his laptop remained, half melted, the screen still flickering with the word jammed. Elara didn't have time to grieve. The core began collapsing inward, the earth shaking violently. Brooks shouted, "It's imploding," but Elara knew better. No, it's adapting again. The core was changing shape, compressing into something smaller, denser. The pulsing slowed into a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat echoing from deep underground. Maya stumbled, clutching her head. "It's in my mind," she gasped. "It's talking." Elara grabbed her shoulders. "Fight it." Maya's eyes rolled back, her voice turning hollow. "It says it's not the enemy. It says it's evolution." Then she convulsed, collapsing to the ground as the skin on her arms began to shimmer with faint metallic veins. Elara knelt beside her, tears stinging her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Brooks aimed his gun. "She's gone, Elara." But Elara shook her head. "Not yet." She pressed her hand against Maya's chest, feeling the strange pulse beneath. The rhythm matched the core. "She's linked." Brooks's jaw tightened. "Then break the link." Elara pulled the detonator from her belt, the one tied to the last remaining explosives Rajiv had rigged around the crater. "Get to the river," she said. Brooks hesitated. "What about you?" She looked at the core, its surface rippling like liquid silver. "Someone has to finish what he started." Brooks stared at her for a long moment, then nodded and limped away without another word. The wind picked up, carrying the sound of whispers. The core began to glow again, brighter this time, as if sensing her decision. Elara stood tall, mud streaked across her face, the detonator clutched in her hand. You wanted to learn from us, she said softly. Then learn sacrifice. She pressed the trigger. The explosion tore through the valley, the force so immense it seemed to rip the air itself apart. Fire rolled outward in waves of blue and green, consuming everything in its path. The hive core screamed, a sound that was neither machine nor living thing, echoing across the jungle before fading into silence. The ground split open, swallowing the remains of the core, the trees, and everything that had grown from it. When the smoke cleared, nothing moved. The forest was gone, replaced by smoldering earth and rising columns of steam. Days later, satellite footage showed the Amazon regrowing at an impossible rate. Trees sprouted overnight, greener than before, leaves shimmering faintly in unnatural hues. The world watched, scientists debated, and governments stayed silent. Somewhere deep in the charred soil, a faint pulse continued, steady and patient.